So let us continue with the new way of living in 4D. Today, we're still on the 8th of September. Today, this afternoon, just an hour ago, the Danish government put out a live press conference, which we had with during the time of Corona as well, where they gave the new bulletins for how we're going to get through winter time, and that is cut down the use of power. And Germany has gone forth with that as well, so we are just following. And I know other countries will do the same. We know how it works. One begins and then the rest will follow. So what it is now is that in all public areas, the heat will only be 90 degrees Celsius. Normally it's above 21 or 22 degrees Celsius, but now it's only 19. That will cut down the use of power quite tremendously. There will be no artificial lighting other than street lights on buildings. And we will also know when we reach winter, the whole kind of, oh yeah, put all the Christmas light up. Nah, not this time. And we already get the bulletins of how to save power in our homes, cut down the use of power, not having items sitting in the plugs all day, etc., etc. So we're getting the heads up. And I'm getting further instructions as well. This will not end. This is not just a short, this winter kind of thing. This will continue as we're seeing it with the effects of the elements that have been going on. That will continue. This is the new reality, people. This is what we are to get used to. So this will continue because until we got all the windmills up and running, and we'll also discover that's a bad idea because as we will learn later on, it's not just about electricity or production of electricity. We're actually harnessing the energies of our magnetic field, and that will dawn at some point, and then the electric cars will no longer be there. Public transportation will be the only means, or you can use your push bike. If you don't want to do public, you do your push bike. You work from home, you work more locally, you learn to live more locally, the long distance kind of things, tourisms, all of these things. We already got the bulletin of don't do the winter skiing holiday and don't do spas and all these kind of things. The whole leisure, insectoid overuse of energy and what we call the forms for pleasure seeking, the tourists that they have let in to take part of the human form and experience all of the sensations of human forms, etc. It's been a huge industry between the greys and the insectoids, inviting in other groups from their parallel universal matrices, because these are matrices, and having had fun here using humans as the vessels to do so, which has also been part of the overuse of all sorts of entertainment industry, YouTube, Instagram, self-promotion, all of this gorgeous and beautiful trending influencers, you name it. All of this is insectoid. So that is, of course, being shut down, and we will learn to live accordingly because we will know eventually we don't want to be pushed back to the Middle Ages. So we have to kind of do it in between, as in, yes, there will be a period of time during the day where there will be no power to tap into. You'll be allowed to tap into power at certain times of day. You will learn later on when you can charge your devices. You will learn to weed out a lot of your devices and only use what is most necessary, such as computer and phones and fridges and stoves. And just to put that one in, I never use the oven. I never bake anything in the oven whatsoever because it's enormously energy consuming. So of course I'm not doing that. So I am changing my cooking habits, and I've done that for 10 years now. I learned it already back then with the whole slowly processing. Use this, use blanching, don't use oils, which we also know oil prices in natural oils, as in kind of vegetable oils, olive oil, and all of these kind of things. Is also going to be hit by this palm oil. Well, we know that's not good. It's harvesting the rainforest, and all of these things will come in, and that will affect what we can use of food sources and how we're going to produce our food. So there's a lot of stuff with this whole plant-based, a new type of artificial meat making that will stop its production because it's energy consuming. Certain vegetables will no longer be available, such as avocados, because it's water consuming. There will be a lot of changes in the future. I might as well just adjust to it already now. Weed these things out that you know that are using enormous amount of water, using enormous amount of resources. Downsized, get used to a simple diet that has the proteins you need, that are grown locally. And of course, I still got the bananas, and I'll keep having my bananas as long as possible. But when that's no longer possible, well, I'll let go of my bananas. I'll do my coffee as long as I can. When that's no longer possible, I'll let go of my coffee, right? There are different ways that you can have coffee substitutes. I learned that years ago, and there are different versions that you can use instead. That is not coffee, but it tastes a little bit like it, and you can get used to it as they did during the Second World War, right? We'll just adjust. But we might as well begin adjusting already now, because it will come. And once it hits, it will be under directives. And with that, trepidations if we don't follow the directives. You might as well do it now when you got the information. So change your way of living, and this whole, I'll just storage a lot of coffee kind of thing. Well, if the sun is changing the molecular structure of things, they will rot. So there's no point in it. I got that information a long time ago. There's no point in storage food because it will rot due to the changes of the sun. So we will also change that everything that is run on electromagnetic energy, that means everything in our reality, will change its properties and it's the way it works. So we'll also get used to that. The same as I got a while back, that whatever I do keep in my cupboards, put it in plastic containers, so to speak, that you can reuse over and over again. A container with a lid, you can use glass if you like instead. I just took the ones from IKEA and used them and overused them again and again and again. And then when they wear out, sometimes in 20 years or so, then I can toss it into recirculation, right? But they have definitely been useful, because all of the critters that, no matter how much I'm trying to get rid of the critters, whenever our program shift a little bit, critters surfaces from the distortion energy. That's the new feature of the fourth dimension as well. So it's easier to keep the food that we don't want the critters to get into by keeping them in containers, food containers, and not having it out there on the table or out in the free. I don't have any fruit out in the free. It's all in my fridge. And at the same time, also, if they have to cut off the power a couple of hours every day, well, then my fridge will keep things contained and I don't have anything in there that will rot. Plus, the fridge has kind of what we call a metal casing. So that will, like a Faraday cage, will ensure that the energies of the sun will not go in and distort it further. So this is also where we'll need to learn to look at our foods and say, okay, what kind of food is suitable for the new environment of the reality we are part of, and then use that as part of our food making and learn to have simple food, as I said, if you were living on a space station. And I eat the same diet every day. I have completed that circle of figuring out which food sources are most in alignment with my energy system. As you know from the free material on food, as well as I talked about in the whole advanced class 3, and then the PDF book you get under the whole new living for free that you can read there. But you have to find the food that is eligible with your energy system. And I've got certain food sources, let's call it that works for me. And I'm eating that every day, and that's plenty. And then I do supplements, of course. I always do supplements. I always done supplements because due to the enormous amount of energy I'm always using, I can't get it from the food, and the food is being more and more deprived of its natural nutrients due to the changes in the sun. So that's also important to understand. So we are to energize our food, and as we energize our food, we are also changing our energy system, hence the advanced work with nutrition and the advanced work with the rotundum again. I put everything in so that you kind of learn to get what you need at a minimum from the base program and get the majority of what you need from your own energy system and from your own transformational dynamics, which leads us to exercise and outdoor activities. But to round up with the whole food, you will then ask, what do you live off, Randy? Well, mostly I have my smoothies, which is 1 liter I make, which is part of my everyday diet. It's based upon a little bit of soy that's produced in Denmark. It has extra protein powder, also soy produced in Denmark. And because I am a female and I'm in my 50s, so I need the extra estrogen infusions, so to speak. And soy is good for my system. My body responds well to it, but not as in drinking a lot of it, because I've shifted there into oat milk instead. Then I have tea and coffee. Simple tea and coffee, no biggie. It's a very thin type of coffee. It's not very thick because I like the taste of coffee, but I don't like the caffeine to a larger degree. It makes me sick. It makes me dizzy. It makes my heart go off completely. Then I have what we say the smaller meals during the day. I have some kind of corn cakes or some kind of pancakes I've produced myself, which is made out of oat milk and wheat and wheat flour, and then salt, nothing bigger there, and prepared on my saucer or my pan, my frying pan, without oil, but a little bit of what we call plant-based butter, just for the first one to oil up the pan, and then it's just the saucepan or whatever you want to call it. Then the rest of them are made without, and that I do on Saturdays. So that's kind of the thing I do once a week. And then I boil potatoes 3 times a week, a larger portion, which I can then put into my 5 minutes heat up of my evening meal, which consists of beans, some kind of extra plant addition of something that holds a high protein level, whatever that is, what is available, and then the potatoes that I put in. And that's it. And I taste it with salt and pepper, and sometimes I only use soy, put that one extra on, again, produced in Denmark. And here we talk the black soy, that, the Chinese version of it, to give it taste. So that's kind of my everyday. And then I have a little extra portion of oat with oat milk before I go to bed. And that's it. Because I don't need a lot of stuff, because I'm producing energy myself. So that's why I'm also not straining the environment, not overproducing, not cooking for many hours, not having things on the stove for hours or in the oven or anything. It is quick, it is short, it is all produced to last the entire week. It is produced so that it can be heated up quickly. Most of it is raw, and onward and so forth. Okay, so that's the simple way. You find your way, what works for you, whatever works for you. And this is how it works for me right now. It might change later on. Then I'll have to do something else. And then I'll figure out something that is just as simple, just as easy to get access to, and is not overly expensive. Because that's also part of it. Downsize so that you don't have huge cost in living, and then eat less pre-produced food. The whole take out and all of these kind of things, never use it, because then some other person has prepared the food, and you remember the imprinting, right? Everything we touch will be imprinted. So if someone else has touched my food, they have, of course, in factory settings, but most of the time it's machines that are doing it there, and the ones that are working in factories are having plastic gloves on, right? But not always in takeaway, or if you order pizza in, or all these kind of things, they touched it. Not all are using plastic gloves. Of course, they have learned more about that the last 3 years and will continue to do so, and eventually it won't be a problem. But there's no point. They're still being made by people, and their energy field will then be in the food due to the holographic principles of what you work with energetically inside this reality will carry the mark or the imprint of the one that has produced it. Which of course also will affect industry eventually, which will change the way that we look upon industries and what we actually do produce. Because if people produce something that leads to a high degree of pollution, not only will they be smacked financially, that will be one of the next steps that will come, but they will also have the imprint of being a polluter. And with that, the drones will come in and wipe them clean. So people will be cleared out when they are trespassing or transgressing and are not working according to the new reality programs. And you will say, wow, that is fucking serious, and yes, it is. But the goal is also to get to the souls, as I talked about, that has no place here or anywhere, that are part of the old cycles and the old wars, and that are predatory and perverted and greedy and all sorts of things that no society anywhere would like to preserve. Just because they're in a clone body does not make them human. So stop having that blinder on and seeing everything through a rosary glass. See things as they are, not what you want them to be, because it's too intimidating and scaring that it's otherwise. Okay, so that's about food. However you're going to do it, you will get the information. Listen to the information you get and follow through. Because if you don't, they can always say you got the information, you didn't follow through, therefore you are now under the transgression rate where you have one strike to get your affairs in order. And if you don't, that's a wiping. And it will get more and more harsh as we are getting fewer and fewer energy units to work with to maintain the base program or to keep it up. And you could say, well, then let it crash. Well, yeah, I would be all in for that, but considering that the majority of whatever's here, including the light bodies, have not been reconfigured to be able to withhold and uphold the new energy configurations, it would be a complete destruction of our planetary system, and then it would turn into a black hole. And you say, well, planets can't turn into black holes. No, but they can. And that is where we're heading if we don't do the transition, if we don't make our ways into a slow transitioning into a new type of reality. And it's always been the plan, and we will follow that one. We have had the incentives for free. The old world order got the warnings 2,500 years ago with the Jesus missions, and nobody has followed it. So we can say it's not because we haven't heard it. It's not because the souls here haven't got the warnings. It's not because nobody has known it, including the ones that went through the first run through and ended up in these disastrous cold universal futures, where there's absolutely nothing but scavengers and androids and machines and shit, and AI-driven worlds that you really don't want to be part of. And they have come back from that and told people, this is what's going to unfold if we don't change our ways. So when you see it in that perspective, you say, well, that's the future it will lead to if we continue our ways. Then you begin to understand, okay, perhaps there's a reason why they have kept coming back and done whatever they have been doing. But I'm still saying and putting in here, it's still not okay with the android projects that's been going on with the abduction and the artificial breeding and all these kind of things. They're trying to shovel it in under the future humans and their projects here, which they are not. And the future humans put their foot down and say, we have nothing to do with that. We would never, ever do that because it's not necessary. They can change whatever they need to change holographically. So when things are being done mechanically and abduction aboard crafts and actual reproduction and fornication and what have you, then it's physical. And that means we're talking about a lesser degree type of races or android races that are doing what they are doing to modify this organism so it suits their purposes, not the original worlds and not the races that are capable of existing within what we call the holographic realities. The holographic metaverse, remember that? That's what I called it. So that's the distinction to be made. So even though you have had all these stories, especially in America, where people are saying, oh, it's part of a contract and I agree to that voluntarily, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, technically the consent that has been given is people kind of, when you've seen it on the internet as well, do you want to go into this page? Yes, I agree, or I give consent or whatever. That's enough. That's for them. That's consent. You're participating in their world, so you have given your consent, which is, of course, manipulation and not, in the greater scheme of things, completely legal. And I've had several trials with some of these maintainer grades where I have in front of the advisory boards and the different trial systems of which they used to be part of has proven that they have no claims on me, even though that they claim that I have given consent, which I haven't. Okay, so, and that's done by not verbal communication, but by scanning devices that are scanning who and what you are and what you have done, the entire history of your being and everything that you have done according to the rules of law. And thereby, if you have in any ways or forms operated so that the ones that are putting forth the claim can have that claim upheld, well, then of course you will have to deal with the races. But if you have done nothing that are in any ways or form supporting the claims, well, then you are free to go, and then they have no access to you anymore, because you will shift modality and you shift out of the reality where they operate. So that's as we talked about the trials. Okay, so with this, we are also saying, when we come to the whole retirement program, these original systems that were part of the Pillar Project, the trialing and these kind of things will of course break down as well. So that will be the Wild West, which I also experienced to a large degree in Australia. But as I said, Australia has now been taken over by the conglomerate of India, China, and Asia in that manner, and they will become part of that alongside with India and Indonesia, and all of these. Going from Russia and all the way down. So just to put that in context, so indoor and outdoor activities, as we have talked about, in forms of there will be days where we cannot go outside. And these days will be, I'm just pondering upon if I covered the food well enough. Did I? Yes, I did, with the fridge kind of thing, have things in there that is not easily getting get rot, whatever, as raw products as possible, as simple products as possible. Keep it simple, stupid, right? That's the key word. So we are just learning to live in a primitive way. And yes, and then if the power shut off from time to time, well, what will you do then? We have been so accustomed to using electric devices for everything. Well, we'll just go for a walk or take a nap or read a book, do whatever, something that doesn't demand electricity. So that will be a more simplistic way of living, which it used to be in the Pillar Project, by the way. We did not do all of this mechanical, whatever's going on, busy, insectoid, hive mind type of world as we're having now. We were focused in kind of what called contemplation on energy dynamics. We would work with the holographic network to produce some kind of pottery or artifacts or artistic expressions or what have you. And we would use hours to get that in as we wanted it. And we would be as part of the laboratories that were in the middle domains. We would walk in and out of the different domains, and you will say, well, that's the fourth dimension that were part of the outer domain. Yeah, that was there while we were learning the lessons of what we want to keep and what we didn't want to keep. So in a way, our artistic expressions were not just because it was fun. It was also to see how well does our holographic link up with the reality actually works. How easily can we form what we are envisioning that we want to create? And if it's difficult to create, well, then there's distortion between our ability to visualize things and ability to manifest things, and that's always a sign of a breaking down of code sequences that then needs to be repaired. And then we could go in meditation or inner work, self-scanning, figuring out, okay, why can't I take the holographic features of the architecture I'm seeing and put it into manifestation here in the outer domain? It should be simple and easy. Well, apparently there is a malfunction somewhere, and then we would take the time to find the malfunction, and then we'll go back out and try again to create the artistic expression of our inner visualization. And then again, if it didn't work, well, back and do energy work over and over and over again until it was exactly what we had envisioned and was shining with beauty and the highest form of energy, transforming the D13 collective energies. Because when there's distortion in the energies, we can't give it the expression we like, and then it creates residuals and it falls apart and it goes into entropy. So that's the sign of when we talk about renewable energy and the sources that are going to use. They will come up with a lot of sources, but if it's built on the wrong foundation, if it's built for greed, if it's built not for the highest good of the many, if it's not built within the framework of the future human communities, you can have as many windmills as you like. If the business that are utilizing that energy is still utilizing it within a greedy concept, well, then that energy will be distorted and their product will not come out as they want it to be. It will fail constantly. It will break down. Similar with the Artemis moon landing project that's going on in America right now. They have been delayed because then that breaks down and then that breaks down. That's because it's piece of shit they have put together because they want to do it as quickly as possible instead of taking the time and understanding, why are we going to the moon? What's the purpose of going to the moon? Other than just proving that we can, including this space tourism and all these stupidities that are going on. So this is how it's going to be. If it's not working for the wholeness, then it will break down. Same with your product. If you have a great idea to do business with, if it's not in alignment with the directives, you will never make it happen. It will not come out as you want it to be. And you will not sell it, and there will be no buyers. It's going to be a pretty hardcore reality where what you are will be what you produce, and what you produce will either be sellable or non-sellable. If it has value, it will be a product that will be allowed to be sold. If it has no value, you will not be allowed to sell that product, and you will fail and you will go broke. Simple as that. So that's the way reality is going to show to us, or actually the technology behind it, including that every month, because the energies changes every month as we go through the different constellations, we will then have to renew our ability and allowances to do the business that we are doing. So that means some people are doing well one month and then they get started the next month and they don't get the allowance and no business, no selling, no income. Shit. So, but we're already getting the weeding out with the whole, we had it with the lockdowns, and now we're having it with the restrictions on the use of power. So things that are not compatible with the new reality programs will slowly but surely be pushed into retirement or pushed out of the host fields, and by that are no longer preservable to be kept inside the new reality features. And the rest of us will change our ways and change what we are and reconstruct our energy system so that we will be in alignment with the new reality program. And we will exemplify that in our everyday living, in the way we think, in the way we feel, in the way we utilize our body, the energies of the body, how much of the physical resources we're using, the magnetic field energies that we are utilizing. We will understand when we are overusing. We'll get the warnings. You will hear it in your head. You have exceeded your limit of the day of what you are allowed to use of energy. And if you're not producing energy, then you'll have very little quanta to deal with. So you have to produce energy yourself, and that is part of the energy work. So now you begin to see why the transformative energy system is shit important. Because if you can't transform energy of the D13 collective and sustain yourself energetically, you have no place to be. There is no place for you anymore. And if you don't do that, you'll be pushed into retirement, and that's not where anyone wants to be, right? You will try to survive in the garbage can. Nobody can do that. So again, this is also why you need to learn this. And we have got a 5-year period now to master that completely. And then that level of how much energy do you actually produce yourself will also come under the directives, which means right now we are learning it by minimizing everything and learning new ways and giving the transition period out of the traditional ways of being human, get into the new ways, 5 years. And if we're not already learning that, most of us will do the 2025 timeline jump there. But the ones that are a little bit slower will have until 2027. And then that's it. Either you're on board or you're just, you have chosen to do otherwise. And you will then stand by your choice. And the doors will be closed. That is probably the most important thing to understand. We are giving this 5-year period now, but if we don't align with it, the doors will close in 2027. Because then we will have the true kick in and the real kick in of the 2-8 pillar. So the doors will close. They might open back up in 2034 for those who have survived the clearing and activation of the 2-8 pillar. But for the rest of us, we are now shifting into being part of the host field so we avoid the tribulations of the activation and clean up the 2-8 pillar. That is the second cycle of the racial network on our planet. as I talked about both in the New Grand Cycle Transition Course 1 and 2, and also in the Template Science course material, and in the Transition course material for that matter, but more specifically in the New Grand Cycle Transition Course 1 and 2, as well as in the the Template Science course 3, where I really explicitly talk about this. And I could talk more about it, but in the Perception Log 2, I touch ground with the horror shows of the future possibilities of our reality field. We're already seeing it. Those of you who have the sensation and are connected to the second cycle, you've already seen what's down there. That's the underworld energies. You know exactly what's going on, and you will do whatever you can to not go there once it hits the collective, because right now we've just been touched ground with it individually. But once it hits the collective, it's going to be pretty nasty when the lights are out. And that is also going to be one of the implications of the lights that will be out during nighttime. Because why has the insectoids overused so much energy to keep everything lit up, especially also light up in the wintertime? That is to hold the night crawlers at bay, and the LED type of energy or light bulbs are actually they're emitting what we kind of a spectrum of energy that holds the dark entities at bay, actually, which is interesting. But since that is now being shut down, that will also lead to a harder ramification of the 2.8 pillar that kicks in 2024, and then it will run until it will really kick in 2025. So that's also why we're having that shift there. And then we'll run until 2034. So that's going to be, for those who are, that's going to be the route for quite a lot of humans that will unfold in the next 13 years, which is also part of the host fields and part of the new reality programs to ensure that a portion of humanity will continue, but also at the same time learning the new abilities of exist in the fourth dimension, at the same time learning to build the chromosomal code systems that are necessary to continue to exist in the fourth dimension, at the same time learn the sciences that assist in building the chromosomal features that will allow us to continue to exist in the fourth dimension of the original density 1 or outer domain features, from where we can then bridge into either the middle domain or parallel structures of the other universal cycles, which we call a universal structure that is composed of 12 universal lineages within 12 universal cycles, with a lot of subcycles that are developing according to their own progression rate and their own progression possibilities. But that's the alternate realities that we can shift into as well. So there's a lot of possibilities once we have learned to master the code systems, the holographic energy system, and our consciousness units. So that's also part of all of the things I've been trying to teach you here. So you understand this is not just another spiritual teaching system. This is the survivalist's handbook. This is the systemic, energetic, transformative awareness that will allow you to continue to exist once you're done with your physical form here, or you have recreated the light body and you shed off the physical form, or however you're going to do it. This is the continuation of what you are, put into a new type of configuration that will allow you to exist amongst the galactic communities or the inner or middle domain communities that exist out there, where you will take effective part of and have endeavors and purposes and functions, because you here and now in this world as it's falling apart are re-educating yourself. You are upgrading yourself. You are learning new ways. You are changing everything. You are preparing for the future human communities here or somewhere else. You're prepping yourself for the future worlds that are to come, for the true worlds that should have been here, or the original ways of living if you are part of the holographic metaverse, be it as part of the humanoid races or the progressive races, and not part of the LPU, which you have been so far. We are leaving that behind because it's falling completely apart and should never have been existed for so long. And we do know the parallel universal matrix races are taking it over and adjusting it to whatever they want it to be, and that will be their choice. But they won't last long either. everybody has to follow the original holographic metaverse rule set of the universal cycles and the universal lineages. Because that's where life truly is, and that's where the true consciousness is, and that's where the true abilities to exist for eternity lies, and not within all of these artificial means. So with that one, the other videos have been kind of extensive and I kind of emptied out. I'm getting less and less energy, but as I know, things are shifting today and tomorrow will be another day. So I'm trying to push as much information in as I can today. There will be just in terms of, I will focus more on exercise as well as outdoor activities in another video. And the whole exercise thing has its complete own teaching system, which you already see now with the biocodes. I already made the framework for the course material. It's already uploaded, but it's not time yet. The energies I need to put it into manifestation are not present yet inside our reality field. They will be present probably next year. So it's there. It needed to be seeded in right now, but it will gain momentum. And then I'll make 4 courses of 10 videos each that will explain in detail why exercise is going to be one of the most important things that you will ever have done, aside from following the directives. And that's all to do with the ability to transform your molecular energies, to reconfigure it, to be able to do the chromosomal lift that will assure you will remain within the 5th and will not slide back into the 4th cycle. So it's all about what do we need to do to maintain our ability to remain within the 5th cycle and under the host fields. The host fields are there until we have learned to do it ourselves. And that's where I'm going, because we can't rely on other races and their kindness, so to speak. We must be sovereign and be empowered by our own means and by our own choices and by our own education and by our own knowledge, and learn to stand strong in our own field as we are producing and transforming the energies off, so that we can sustain everything we are. And by that, travel between the different realms of reality, because what we are is the travel device, not the craft, whatever. That could just be an extension of who and what we are. If we are going into, for instance, a parallel universe, it would be nice to create a craft there to protect our original configuration. So if we solidify it, so it's not as touchable of the holographic features of the reality we are entering. But if we are in our own reality, we don't need crafts. We can just transfer ourselves via the gate systems. So there's a lot of things to be learned here, that how to operate in the original density energies, as well as how to operate in the parallel universes that we are getting access to as well, if we are learning to do things the right way. So that's the process we're in. And every new learning is hard. And just keep in mind, some of the negative races are using that to convince you that what they're doing to you is the right thing, but always do the litmus test. How much machinery are they using? What's the way they're doing it? How screwed up is the result of it? What do you see when whatever is going on? How do they look? What are the impression you get of them? Are they using holographic overlay? Look behind the overlay. Who's behind? Demand to see who's behind. Demand to understand the purpose of what they are doing. The lesser they explain, the more you can rest assured that that's some kind of screwed up scheme that you are becoming part of. Then you need to clear it out, get rid of the imprints, the symbols, the technologies, and everything that you are tied up to. The better it sounds, the more you can also be assured it's trickery. None of this comes easy. It comes the hard way, and it comes through sacrifices. And that's another good one, because all of the races that are keeping up themselves using artificial means or harvesting or parasiting, they can't let go. They can't cut loose. They always want to keep what they have got. They're so difficult for them to let go. So when we're dealing with this, so as we're also learning now, the only way we will survive is to minimize our use of things. That's sacrifice. That's cutting loose our over access or excess use of resources. So we learn to cut loose and minimize in a positive manner, where we could see this has so many good side effects. This will have so good ripple effect if we all just minimize our usage of what we call the frequency energies. Whatever we do, and learn to transform energies ourselves. And then we will see that ability to transform energy will also empower us and make us stronger and make us able to choose our own destiny. Hence, a project that is worth investing in. Okay, so that's the difference. And these are some of the things that you need to learn to be observant of in the encounters that you are having. And that's part of the learning process that you will learn as you clear out your distortion fields. Because the reason why most of the people that are here is because they didn't understand how important it was not to trust. Blind trust never gets anyone the right way. Skilled understanding and skilled encounters under the rules of engagement and the principles and the understanding of the purity rates, the standards and the progression rate and the highest good of the many is what gets people where they need to go. So that's some of the important things that we are also to learn. No matter what highway we are on, these basic features always apply to the true universal cycles. And no matter where we are, they will always be our guiding light. They will always be the light tower from where we can navigate through the dire straits and the darkness of times and the stormful seas and whatever I can come up with of analogies so you kind of understand. The only light that will get you through whatever you're in is the principles, the rules, and the laws, and your conviction that you will do that to the best of your abilities to search for the highest purity rate of your organic code systems, for the highest standards of your holographic energy system in all of its processes, and for the highest progression rate of your consciousness units. And then always think about, if you can do it, others can do it too. Always think about what the ramifications of your choices on the unity and the wholeness you're part of. And always think that whatever you do must benefit as many as possible. And that is the highest good of the many. Okay. I think that will suffice for today. The outdoor and where we are tomorrow can be done in videos tomorrow. So for now, end of September 8th with what you need to know today, and tomorrow's another day, and we'll continue the material there. Thank you.